Hey, good morning, Internet. Welcome. It's Tuesday morning. This is another episode of Show It Live. I'm Elizabeth Langford. We are so glad you are here. I'm going to be talking with SEO expert Carrie Swails today, and we're going to be talking specifically, that's a big word, about Google Analytics, which is another big word. And another big thing that happened here at Show It last week was that our dear friend Phil Denny had a little surgery on his knee, and now has what we like to lovingly refer to as zombie knee. And Phil's actually here. He's not going to be on the show for the entire time today because we won't let him. We want him to rest. But he's alive and well and still has his beard.
Yes.
How are you doing?
Don't have a mic on, but I'm doing great.
Phil doesn't have a mic on, but he says he's doing great. And we're so glad that you are alive and well, and we miss you, and get healthy. And stop doing crazy things on crutches, 5 days post-surgery, sir. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. We have a couple of things that I want to let you know about before we go live with Carrie Swails. WPPI is fast approaching. We're about a month out from that. And we are going to be having a Show It booth on the show floor at WPPI. So we hope that if you're coming, you will come by and say hi, and make sure that you request to join the Show It Tears group. You can jump in on that. It's Show It Tears in Vegas 2015. And I realize I've been looking at the wrong camera for 35 seconds. So on Facebook. And then also we have a Show It Tear dinner coming up. It's Sunday night, March 1st. It's at the Wicked Spoon at 6:30 p.m. And we have, I think, just a few more tickets that we're going to be able to release. And so later on today, we'll post up in the group when those tickets are live, and you can go and grab those tickets. We had already sold out, but we were able to finagle a few more. And speaking of tickets, this is super exciting. Show It United tickets. We are going to release more tickets on Valentine's Day, because at Show It, we love love and we love hugs. And so it's the perfect day for us to release tickets to all of you. So you're gonna wanna keep your eye out in the Show It Tears group for that. Very, very exciting. So today, for those of you who have never turned on your Google Analytics, or you've turned them on like me and you haven't utilized them to better your business, we have an expert in SEO and Google Analytics joining us today. Carrie Swails is a fantastic photographer, and she also runs an amazing blog called Photography Awesome Sauce, and she's just recently home from New Zealand, so she might have a little bit of jet lag today. Hi, Carrie, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing really good, and now that I'm looking at the right camera and I'm looking at you, I'm doing much better.
I have to look the wrong way to look at you.
Uh-oh. Well, welcome back to the United States. It sounds like you had a really amazing trip and just are totally in love with New Zealand.
Yes, I would move there if I was single and dogless.
And dogless. Well, you'll have to take your husband back. I'm not sure if it's so easy to take your dogs on vacation to New Zealand.
Yeah, I have plans already to go back. So I need more wine and more Lord of the Rings.
That's awesome. So did they, I know you're a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Did they shoot a lot or all of the movies there? I have to admit, I've never seen the Lord of the Rings.
They shot all of the Lord of the Rings there and all of the Hobbit there, except for one thing that they shot in London in the studio.
Okay. Very, very cool. Did they shoot any of Harry Potter in New Zealand? I'm a huge Harry Potter fan.
I don't know, but they did shoot Wolverine and Narnia in one of the spots that I got to visit where they did a whole bunch of Lord of the Rings stuff.
Oh, that's really cool. My daughter really loves the Chronicles of Narnia right now. We've been reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and recently cut her hair short because it was Lucy's haircut, and she just felt like she needed to have Lucy's haircut. And now I find her hanging out in closets thinking she's going to enter another world. She's 5, you guys. It's totally normal when you're 5 thinking that a closet is going to take you to a magical land.
I was just excited about, I was like, I'm standing where Hugh Jackman stood.
Who doesn't want to be standing where Hugh Jackman is stood? Better if Hugh Jackman is still standing there.
I was going to Photoshop him or maybe Viggo Mortensen into a couple of my photos and just put those out there.
It's amazing. You can't trust anything you see anymore, right? Because you can Photoshop it. I was working on a project the other day with JT, one of our team members who actually runs our show behind the scenes for us. And I was like, man, I can't trust anything I see anymore because who knows if it's real? You can Photoshop just about anything.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump knew what he was doing, right? In all those pictures. But we're not here to talk about movies today, unfortunately, although we could have an entire Show It Live episode on the movies that Showiteers love. But we specifically are here to talk about Google Analytics. And you are going to help Showiteers and anybody else watching to kind of jumpstart the process of using analytics to better your business.
Yes, I am. I guess where should I start?
So can you tell us what is Google Analytics for those that haven't started yet? What are analytics and why should we be using them?
So it's basically detailed website statistics provided to you for free by Google that can help you track how many people visit your website, the locations that they're visiting from, how long they're staying on your website, and which pages specifically they're going to. So it can give you a lot of really good feedback on your website and how your potential clients are interacting with it, so you can make changes basically to make your business better.
That's awesome. And it's free?
It's free.
That is so cool. Who doesn't love Google? So you can, with a Google account, sign up, get your Google Analytics code. It's a UA code, correct, that you can actually put right into Show It when you do your full publish. And then it'll start tracking all of your pages. And about how long from the time, for maybe people who are going to sign up today, Carrie, how long do you need to wait from that initial sign up point to the time that you actually have some decent data to look at?
I always say wait at least 30 days. So I check in with mine at least once a month just to kind of see how things are going. But your stats are going to vary depending on the time of year and how your photography seasons work. So sometimes things slow down for me and sometimes they pick up. So your bounce rate can vary a lot from one season to the next.
Okay, that makes sense. Can you explain bounce rate for those of us that maybe aren't quite familiar with what that term is? That has nothing to do with bouncing balls.
So one of the main stats that Google Analytics can give you is a bounce rate, which is basically the percentage of people who visit your website and then click away right away. So bounce rates are like golf. You want a low bounce rate and not a high bounce rate.
Which makes me a little nervous to have JT maybe switch over to my computer here I can show my bounce rate. I have a bunch of sites here. Let me grab the right one and pull it down. And my bounce rate is an alarming 78.44%. So I am guilty of having turned on Google Analytics 5 years ago for my business and not using it, not looking at it, and not adjusting my site based off of it, which is what you're telling us we can be doing for free, making adjustments based off of how people are actually interacting with our sites, which makes a better experience for them and a better business for us.
Yes.
So again, and maybe you said it and I didn't hear you, my audio cut out for a second. What is an ideal bounce rate? Where do you want to be? I know it's not 78.44%.
So most people would say a good general bounce rate is like between 20 and 40%. Very average. Anything above 70% is pretty bad. I'm sorry to tell you, but things can vary depending on the industry. And like, if you're in a specific niche, like I am, your bounce rate may vary depending on what that is and who your specific audience is. So it's really hard to say, you know, that 60% is bad, because it might actually be okay for you and what you're doing. It's something that really you kind of have to look at your website, look at the feedback, look at what you're doing, and regulate on your own whether you feel it's a good or bad thing.
Okay, that's good to hear. So I don't need to be terribly upset about my bounce rate, but I do want to go and work on it. So if you have a high bounce rate, if you've turned on Google Analytics and maybe like me, you haven't gone back and looked at it, and you have a high bounce rate, what are some of the ways that you can start dropping that? What are recommendations that you have?
Okay, so once you've kind of gone into Google Analytics, you set up your account, and then you can plug in, Google will give you that little UA code. It's just like a numerical code, and you plug that into your website. You watch for 30 days, and then you can log back in and see how things are going. There's a couple different pages I look at. There's one that shows kind of a general overview.
Okay.
And I know you have that, and you can pull that up if you want to show people.
Yeah, let me grab that.
It'll show a bounce rate that's kind of like a combination of your mobile, desktop, and tablet, because Google Analytics is nice enough to split up bounce rates based on devices.
Okay.
So I like to sometimes look at the different devices and see if my bounce rate varies from one thing to the next. But what's really important for me to look at is, I think they call it in the behavior section, there's a little tab. And from there, you should be able to click around and see which pages specifically of your website people are spending time on, which ones they're clicking away from, where they're looking the longest, and kind of get feedback of, I guess, how people are interacting directly with the information you're putting out there. So with your bounce rate, you're at 78.44%, right?
Not to be specific, Carrie, but that is what my number is.
So that's definitely something you would want to get lower, and it might take you some time. And for those of you who don't know, Elizabeth's already changing her website up and adding things. For me, I really changed my website by adding a ton of pages, putting a lot of information out there, and I found that the more information I provided, the longer people were staying and reading and looking around. So that was a really big change for me.
Okay, and that's interesting. My site previously with these analytics, and I don't know if I can go back and look at different variations of my site. I guess I specifically could go back and look at different date periods. But my previous site, the one I published on Show It, I designed and published this weekend, had 4 pages, and that was it. And there wasn't a lot of information because I wanted to see, it's just something very basic, what people want. And this weekend, I spent the weekend, redesigned my site and broke it into something more like, I think now it's 24 pages with a lot of information, but that information is broken up into lots of pages. So I want to see where people are clicking through and where they stop, where they're like, this is either enough for me, and maybe they go to the contact page to make contact, or I've had too much of this girl and I want to leave. And I think that's great, because what you're saying is a little bit opposite of maybe what the industry has been told, is don't put too much information on your website. You really believe, give a lot of information, but break it up.
Yes, I really believe the more information, the better. I mean, people can read it or not read it, but having more information and more written information specifically will actually boost your chances of having better SEO in addition, just because you have more stuff for Google to read. But if you can put more information out there and you're really building a brand that's about you and your personality, like a shout out to Jeff on specialism, people will take the time to read. So if they're really into you, they're definitely going to read as much about you as possible. So I usually find that one of the first pages people go to is my about page, and they read all of that. And then I have a second about page, and they go read more on that. And then it leads into, I put a bio about my husband and my 3 dogs. Those are the most visited pages on my website. People don't spend a lot of time looking in my galleries. And so I know when they're booking because of me, and they've read all this information I put out there. I have a lot of information pages as well, just about the business and what I do and pricing and just my philosophies and my approach to things. And I get a lot more response from my inquiries from people who obviously just spent a really thorough amount of time looking through the information. So my bounce rate is really, really low, which is a good thing. It means that the people who are coming are there because they're really, truly interested in what I have to say and what I'm doing. And that definitely translates into a lot more bookings.
That's awesome. Now, with this super low bounce rate, one of our users, Josh Smith, who's from Los Angeles, Josh wants to know, how long does someone need to be on your site in order for it to not count as a bounce? Like, what is that time minimum that affects that bounce rate?
So basically, when people are bouncing, that essentially means that they've opened up your website to whatever page they've landed on first, and they've looked at it and they've left immediately.
Okay.
So anytime people continue to click around on anything on your website, you're going to improve your bounce rate. And so like, let's say they go to your homepage and they click the about page and then they bounce away, at least they've clicked one thing on your website. So having like more buttons and more options. I have some photographers who I know don't like put direct links to their blog, but that's one of the most clicked things on my website is my blog.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. Now, as people come to the site and they go to one other page and they leave, you can actually see that in your Google Analytics, what page they enter your site on and what page they leave from, correct?
Yes.
So you could essentially then tell, like, either I'm giving the wrong information or I'm not making the right connections on my about page or whatever page, or you can see if it's your investment page so that maybe it's just people that are price shopping and then they can see. So speaking of which, on an investment page, do you think, do you list entire pricing or do you list like starting prices?
I've always done starting prices. I just feel more comfortable with that. Just because I want people to book me for who I am. And ultimately, I want them to not care about the price at the end of the day.
Okay. No, I love that. Aaron, who is in our chat, he wants to know, should the information that we're putting out on our websites, do you think that it should be more of a reflection of who we are or more about the price and the package info? Or is it just a combination of both?
I put more about who I am and my personal philosophies than anything else, because that's what I want people to connect with. I mean, I've always said that I don't think I'm the best photographer in the world by any means, but I've always had a really successful business and it's always been really easy for me to book because I've always put my personality into my website. So I will readily put my opinions about Pinterest, the wedding industry, how I dislike things, what I do like, because I want to connect with the right kind of clients. So like I have a whole information page that talks about how I don't like posy shots and I don't like the way the wedding industry wants us all to look like editorial brides in magazines. Sorry, everybody, I'm more of the non-traditional photographer, so it makes it very clear to my client that that's what I'm all about. That's really the information that they connect with the most. So pricing and all of that is kind of secondary.
So then a bride who is going to make a handmade paper bouquet out of pages of Harry Potter books is going to know right away, this is my girl, this is my photographer.
Yep.
And I have to have her, or a girl who's not interested in that, a bride who isn't interested in that, can then move on to the next photographer that might be their style.
Yes.
Okay.
I actually had an inquiry a couple months ago where she said a long couple of paragraphs. It started with, I've already hired 2 wedding photographers and fired them because they didn't pose us the way I liked. And then a long, lengthy explanation about how she really wants to be posed. And I thought, did she even read my website? And of course, I had her location on there. She was from out of state. So it was easy for me to go log into Google Analytics and go, oh yeah, she went to my homepage and she went to my contact page. She didn't read anything. She has no idea what I'm about, so it's probably not going to work out.
Right. No, I think that's great. And we're getting lots of questions in the chat. And I also saw that Jordan Demos apologized. He was running late today because he was making egg muffins. So Jordan, I'm just going to say you only live like 15 minutes from here. You have time to get them here maybe before the end of the show. I don't know. Not that we'll go another 50 minutes, but we might, because this is a fascinating topic. So one of our viewers in the chat, I think her name is Trish, was saying that she's got a lot of bouncing from like spammy type sites or what seem like maybe they're bots. Is there a way that information can be taken out of your data, or do you just have to look at your data and kind of cut that out, carve that out on your own when you look at the total numbers?
So there is I forget what the website's called, but it's been brought up in like the Show It Tears group and in other places and different photographer communities. I'm blanking because I am jet lagged, but there's some website that is kind of a spammy website that does tend to send a lot of traffic to people. And I posted the link to it before, or you can actually opt out. They're kind of the #1 spam website. A lot of WordPress users see visits from them. And maybe after the show, I can dig that up and we can add into a post on showiteer.com where to go to opt out of those kind of spam connections, and that should help. But yeah, there's oftentimes, if you see something that looks spammy, there are a lot of websites out there that do just kind of link to you, and it can affect your stats a little bit. And I always recommend going to those websites and seeing if there's a way to opt out of them linking directly to you, because there usually is.
Okay. So, and we don't want the spammy sites linking to us, but we do want what are known as inbound links from other sites, correct?
Yes, and you can even check, usually once your Google Analytics is started and you're in a couple months, you can see where any ad campaigns you've run somewhere else on the web, if they're affecting and how much traffic you're bringing in. You can connect Google Analytics to AdWords and all of their different advertising programs and see how those are effective. I can specifically tell that a lot of my traffic comes from ad campaigns that I've run on offbeatbride.com.
Okay.
And so it's nice to be able to look at really direct feedback and see how those are doing and know if it's something I want to reinvest in.
Okay. So if you're advertising on, say, The Knot or Wedding Wire, or you've been published by a large blog, this is a way that you can on the back end look at what actually is coming into your site, because there's numbers that they give you, but there's different analytics tracking, correct, other than just Google?
Yes.
Okay. But
see, like WordPress kind of has a stats setting. It's not very accurate. Google Analytics is definitely the most accurate. But yeah, if you run an advertising program on Wedding Wire or The Knot, you should be able to see how many people are actually clicking the link directly from there, going to your website, and be able to follow where those people are looking around and where they kind of drop off and if they contact you.
Right. Now, do you think it is best if you only look at one analytics stream, like just focus on Google Analytics, or should people be worried about the other ones?
I would focus just on one, and I would focus on Google Analytics just because it's the most accurate that I've found, and it'll be able to give you the most feedback really with how people interact. I kind of would take the Jetpack site stats and WordPress with a grain of salt.
Okay.
And they're kind of nice to see as an overview now and then, but
Right.
really look at your Google Analytics because they'll be so much more accurate.
Well, and for Show It users, you want to be able to look and see who's going to your website, and so you can, like we said at the beginning of the show, take that UA code and plug it right in. Now, I think Stacy had a great question. She said, "What reports should we look at? Like, what should we be focused on in Google Analytics?" Because I will admit, I am overwhelmed. There's a lot happening on the left-hand sidebar. So what maybe are the 2 pages that you would recommend that as you're getting started, really should be focused on? And JT can pull up mine if he wants to, and feel free to tell me to go to any other pages. But
yeah. So you have a section in that left-hand column that's called Audience.
Okay.
And that's going to allow you to look at more of your bounce rate statistics. And you can go under, there's a tab that says Mobile, and you can click Overview. And from there, you should actually be able to see your desktop, mobile, and tablet bounce rates, how many sessions people have started, how many pages they looked at, the average duration that they've stayed on your website. So that's a really good overview to see how things are working and to tell you, if your mobile bounce rate is 90% and your desktop rate is 30%, that's something you definitely want to look into, because especially Show It users, you have such an awesome mobile platform that the second you get those mobile websites up and running, wait 30 days and you'll definitely see a huge difference in your bounce rate on your mobile device.
And this is then a great opportunity to make adjustments if you've got a high bounce rate on mobile, to making it more mobile friendly, and Showit is the only custom drag and drop design builder for mobile, which is really cool. You can customize that experience. And I am embarrassed to say that I need to go and work on my bounce rate. Just a little bit, but that's okay. I think it's going to be exciting 30 days from now to be able to see what adjustments with the new site that I designed. Can you talk a little bit about, and I didn't prep you for this, but average session duration? Do we need to be as concerned with how long someone stays on our site, or really like the pages they went to and the information that they consumed while they were there?
I would say spend more time worrying about the actual pages that they went to. And then from there, seeing which pages they spent the most time on. The average session duration, sometimes it can be short. For me, I will get clients who go on, they look at my about pages, they read them for 5-6 minutes, and then they contact me immediately. Okay. Which maybe isn't very long, or sometimes people read just my about section, about just me, go to the contact page, and maybe they're only on for 2 minutes. So that average session duration, depending on how well you're branding, could be kind of meaningless, because if you're branding well and somebody goes and they reads and they're like, man, I just love this photographer, I have to book them. Right. They might be on your website a shorter amount of time, and then they might be one of those people that come back and revisit later after they've talked to you.
Okay. That totally makes sense. And then Field actually had a question. Field, who is sitting offside, I really think you should put your knee up. I'm quite concerned about this. He said it feels like he's got a small human hanging onto his leg right now. Field wanted to know, how important do you find the flow that users go through your website on, and how that affects dropout rates? So I guess this is kind of a design. How does the design of the site affect dropout rate for users?
I think when you look at, so kind of to answer that previous question before I said the things that I visit the most, the second thing or report that I look at the most is under the behavior section. Okay. And you can look at the behavior flow and see kind of where people are spending the most time and where they're dropping off. And from there you can see, especially when I look at my own, that most people read my about sections. In the last month, I've had 2 people look at my engagement gallery, and 100-something people look at my about section. And I know you have a screenshot which you can pull up to show people kind of what yours looks like. I don't know if anybody wants to pull that up, but that can tell you kind of where people are spending the most time. It tells me that, man, maybe I could just take my engagement gallery off my website altogether and maybe people wouldn't even care. Okay. So, or maybe I don't need to have as many photos in my engagement gallery. If people were dropping off a lot in my about section, that would tell me I wasn't very interesting, and maybe I needed to rewrite my bio.
Right. Right. Very cool. Now, and Carrie, I'm having technical difficulties finding those pages. Where can I see in Google Analytics the breakdown of those pages? Okay.
So that left-hand column, there's a section that's called behavior. There's a behavior flow button. There's an overview.
Okay. So this is down below for those of you that are following along in your Google Analytics, which you can be doing. This is not behavior that's under audience. This is behavior that it's all on its own down at the bottom. So you want to go down below. It's right below acquisition that has like 2 funky little arrows going. This reminds me of like the scarecrow in Wizard of Oz. But if you go down to that behavior tab, that is where you're going to be able to find all of this information, and click on overview. And this is where you can see, I think, your most popular pages, correct? And
yeah.
what matters most.
The other thing under behavior, there's a site content drop down, and you can look at all pages, and then you can actually see the unique page views, how many people have visited the specific areas of your website. Like my dog Opal, her bio page, which is on a separate page of itself, is one of the most visited pages of my website.
That is fantastic.
It's weird, but
it is weird, but it's getting you the right bride, right? It's getting that connection with the right couple, which I think is awesome, because that's really what it's all about. Like, you believe in specialism and in putting out who you are as your brand, and that really narrows down the brides that go through that contact form process.
Yeah, I get a lot of inquiries when people say, I have a dog just like one of yours, or my dogs are in my wedding, and we definitely want a photographer who loves dogs as much as we do. And that's plainly obvious when you go to my website. So it's just another way for people to just get more information about my personality and not necessarily what I do.
Right.
But those are the most visited pages for me when I look at that section in Google Analytics.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. And I think we know that people really they buy you, and if they love you, they love your photography, and it doesn't matter, if your photos are not the best. I think your photos are amazing, but your photos are a reflection of you. They're your style. They're your brand, and that's really what brides want, because they want consistency. They want to be able to buy what they see on your website. So yeah. I think it's great that you really show a lot of you. I love that.
Yeah. So hopefully people should be able to walk away from this and go, man, I need to integrate more of my personality, more pages, boost that bounce rate, get more clients.
Now, how important, we've talked about adding more information, and you were saying yesterday with pictures, and some people think that you should only have 15 photos on your website, and some people think you should have 150 photos on your website, and I think there's different reasons to have different amounts of photos. But you were saying that the more photos you have in a gallery, you found that the longer people actually do stay. Am I saying that correct?
Yeah, I actually find that people spend more time in my wedding gallery if I have more photos. Now, given I don't want to have too many photos, and I definitely understand when people are like, only put your best work out there. But my approach has always been to put what I think my clients will love the most. I know what my best work is, but if there's something that I've noticed, a sneak peek I threw on Facebook and people really connect to that, maybe more than I did, maybe that's something I want to put in there to continue to get more of those clients. I have work in there that maybe isn't my best work, but it shows a certain type of couple or a certain type of wedding that I really want to shoot, and people connect to that. And so they spend time looking through those galleries. I think I'm pulling up right now, my stats, and my wedding gallery, the average time in my wedding gallery is 5 minutes, which is quite long.
That's amazing. Let's all stop and give Carrie a serious round of applause. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's if people even get to the gallery.
Right.
Like I said, a lot of people don't spend a ton of time viewing my photos, but it seems like those that do spend a lot of time looking at them, which I think gets me more of a quality client and somebody who's more familiar with what I have to offer and what I'm looking to shoot.
Well, and by the time they have spent that much time, they've already spent time investing in you. They're interested in who you are, and they've gotten an idea of your vibe. And so then they're kind of at that enjoyment stage of the website. They're no longer window shopping. They're actually imagining that could be me. That could be me in those pictures. And they're starting to, project themselves into the world of Carrie Swails.
Yeah. And I definitely have more than 15 photos in there.
That's okay though, right? So I love what you said though. It's okay to have more than 15, but you really want that to be a curated collection of your best images and the images that are what you want to sell, right? We should be showing what it is that we want to shoot more of.
Yeah. And I'm definitely picky about the order I put them in.
Okay.
So I might put my favorite ones first, and toward the end of the gallery, my least favorite ones, the ones that I still think people will connect to. But I've always been a rule breaker. So when people say only put 15 photos, I'm like, watch me not do that and make sure it turns out good.
Right. Let me do this my own way, which is perfect for the offbeat bride, right? That is her thing. I'm going to do my wedding and I'm going to do it my own way.
Yeah. And I've also found, just side note, not related to Google Analytics, but when I do meetings with my clients, they never need to see more of my portfolio. They're always like, no, I've seen all the pictures I need to. I'm good to go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. So Carrie, there are a couple different ways that you can get this information from Google, correct? You could log in, maybe make a reminder, set it on your calendar once a month. I'm going to log in on this date and look through this. But I think you can also set it up where it will auto send you either once a day, once a week, or once a month, your kind of basic overview stats. Is that correct?
Yes. And I would recommend just do once a month, because if you dive in and you're getting weekly updates, you're only going to worry yourself if you're not seeing the numbers that you like. So if you're just getting into this and you're ready to make changes and add information to your website, you can have them email you the stats once a month and just wait and watch it progress, make changes based on what you see. You know, don't freak out. You definitely don't want to get daily stats. I think as somebody who has anxiety, that would just give me anxiety.
Okay, so we're not wanting to sort of live and die by our Google Analytics, but we are wanting to use them to make our businesses better by making our sites better. Because I have to say, my bounce rate is awful, but I do book brides, and I book the exact right kind of bride. I haven't had a bride in 4 years that didn't feel like, oh, that's my girl. This is my couple. That's a wedding that I want to shoot. And so, you know, I'm a little heartbroken over what my Google Analytics are saying, but that's not, you know, we shouldn't live and die by them necessarily.
Yeah, it's something, it'll change over time too. And one thing to remember with Google Analytics, it does directly affect your SEO. It's not a huge part of how Google analyzes your website for search engines, but the higher your bounce rate is, that gives information to Google that says, there must not be a lot of good information on her website. People don't like it. So they might not rate you as high in search results. So having a lower bounce rate, even though you're getting the kinds of clients you want, will definitely help with your SEO.
That will improve with SEO. And SEO is such a big topic. We had a great episode a few weeks ago with Benjamin Turner, who, like yourself, is just like SEO guru and knows what we need to be doing for our Show It sites and our blogs. And we were talking a little bit about Show It yesterday, kind of offline. And there are lots of places that you can improve your SEO in Show It. You just need to make sure that you're doing it, that you're naming things correctly, that you're getting the information in there.
Yeah, Show It is, I mean, I'm biased, but it's my favorite website platform. Not only can you completely customize how your website looks down to the tiniest detail, but you can customize all of your SEO options. And like any other website service that's in the industry, you pretty much have all the same options that everything else does. So I wouldn't say that any other one is better than the others. And I'll throw out there that a lot of people have trouble in Squarespace because some of the meta tags and things like that aren't as customizable as Show It's. So it's really definitely doable to have great SEO with Show It.
That's awesome. So really, it's just about doing it and knowing the steps to do it correctly.
Yeah, it's all about you and putting in hard work and consistency. If you just do a little bit and then kind of let it hang, then you're not going to see as much out of your results. But if you're constantly working on it and you're working hard and you're integrating blogging, then you'll definitely see changes.
Awesome. Now, one of the things you also said yesterday that I thought was really important is that you may have this great brand that you love and your Show It site is done, and there's really no reason to change it except maybe to update some, a little bit of information. Maybe you're going to add some more photos from some weddings or styled shoots you've done that you love, and you're going to take out a few others during the curating process. But you said it's really important that even if your Show It site isn't changing a lot, that we do go in there, I think you said at least every 6 months, right, and republish and notify Google. Can you kind of explain why that is that we want to make changes and updates?
Yes. Show It is what we call a static website, which means that unlike a blog, it's not changing frequently. So when you create your website and then you publish it and put the information out there, Google and other search engines, they read it and they rate it and then they're done. And since you're not republishing new information all the time, any static website will go down in rating over time. So you always want to make sure that you're checking into your website at least every 6 months, adding a couple new photos in your portfolio, taking some things out, maybe rewording some things, and hitting publish. And in Show It, when you hit the publish button, you have an option of notifying Google. And so you always want to hit that. Make sure that Google will come over and all those little bots will read your website and recheck it. And that way you're always telling Google, hey, I'm adding some new stuff, even if it's not very much. And that'll help keep your rating up with Show It.
Okay. No, I love that. That's awesome. And that's an action step for all of you out there. If you haven't updated recently, do a little update, do a full publish, notify Google. I have a question for you, Carrie, and we didn't talk about this in our pre-Show It Live meeting, but how important is the way that we're naming our photos that we are putting into our Show It sites? Because that is something that as Google goes through and reads when we notify them, correct? They're reading the name that we've given all of those files. They shouldn't be like IMG_0063 because that doesn't mean anything, correct?
Yeah, and I really think that starts with when you're editing. So when you're editing a session, export it with, Sam and Jennifer's wedding photo, so that's already the title. But I actually don't spend a lot of time with images on my Show It site and what they're named, just because I know that that's not as important as having actual readable, relevant content about the topic.
Okay.
Of being a wedding photographer. So that's really secondary for me. And you don't want to go through and name every photo Denver wedding photographer, because that's going to overkill your SEO and get you blacklisted anyway. If you really feel like that's something you want to invest in, you could do a little bit of it, but I don't do any, and it doesn't really seem to make a difference.
It doesn't seem to make a difference. And I did hear that that phrases are better when you're naming photos, that you don't want it to be Denver wedding photographer _1. You would want it to be more phrase related that talks about what's in the image. Because Google's thing is that they want to make sure that they're delivering relevant content. I always sort of explained it to people like, it's like Match.com. When you go on Google and you type in, like, I want to find a Denver wedding photographer, you don't want to not find a Denver wedding photographer. You don't want to find like a Denver omelet. Like, it needs to be very, very specific, just like Match.com. I want 6'4", blue eyes, that looks like he could be in Tangled or something. I don't know.
I met my husband on Match.com, and he showed up as one of my matches, and I was just not into him at all. I thought, this is a terrible match. But
apparently, it's a really good match. That's awesome. More and more people are meeting that way. A couple that I met with last week about their wedding, they met on Christian Mingle, and they were from like opposite sides of the country. And they just are totally in love. And they're getting married May 22nd, Scottsdale.
Yeah, we met on Match.com 7 years ago. So back when it wasn't cool. I think we should be in commercials.
Right? You guys should you should be in the commercials photographing other people, offbeat brides getting married. I love it. We've got another question here. I'm going to read that the gallery must be included in the SEO. So there's a process to go through, right? Where it's gallery, and you come over to the advanced tab, which is on the right side if you're inside of Show It. And then you look at the HTML and you want to click that box. There's a little box there, I think, that says include in SEO HTML. You want to make sure that gallery with your images is included so that Google is reading it.
Yeah, and you can title the gallery with specific locations and stuff to improve your SEO too. But yeah, when you're including images specifically, that's the kind of stuff that will show up in a Google image search. So when you're naming those kind of images, I would actually be really specific about naming things, because if you're a bride and you're going to look up wedding images for your venue because you want to see how your photos will look there at this time of year or whatever, most brides who I find me through Google image searches, it's all because they're looking at images under the name of their venue.
Okay, very specific things.
Yeah, so you could, if you really feel like you need to name images and Show It, that's probably the way that I would go, just because I find on my blog that that's what works best.
Okay, no, that's awesome. And Google Images is such a popular search tool now. And then I think, what is it? The second most popular search engine is YouTube. And I know that photographers Ryan and Denise have been making YouTube videos that are, I think they used Animoto and now they use iMovie to make videos that they throw up on YouTube of their images, and brides find those because that's one of the places that they're searching, or it pops up in a Google search. So lots of different ways to get people to your site, but you do have to make the effort, do the work, and do it very consistently, and not just do it once like I did and walk yourself away.
Definitely. And that's why Google Analytics is such a great tool. I mean, you can post up your new website in the Show a Tier group and get as much feedback as you can, but you really want your feedback to come directly from the clients. And it's such a great way to get anonymous statistics that can tell you what's useful on your website, what isn't working. And because my bounce rate is low and I can see where people are going and how they're doing things, and I really like the way that people are using my website, I'm really hesitant to make a ton of changes based on other people's opinions.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great. You can actually use the data to support where you are, or then to make adjustments sort of accordingly. So if you haven't signed up for Google Analytics yet, it's totally free. If you've got a Gmail account, you can go right to, I think it's analytics.google.com, or just search Google Analytics on Google.
Google.com/analytics.
Which is kind of a big word, but you can go there, you can sign up for free, start tracking this. And like Carrie said at the beginning of the show, if you've maybe joined us halfway through the show, like Jordan Demos, you want to make sure that you give yourself at least 30 days before you start looking at this. And then Carrie really recommends that you just look every 30 days, whether they send you the report or you jump in, put it on your task list to take care of.
Yes. And if you guys have questions, tag me in the Show It group or wherever else you're from. I know there's a lot of people watching who aren't Show-Iteers, and they're photography awesome sauce photographers. So you guys feel free to ask questions and I can help you if I can. The Google Analytics platform is kind of complicated to walk through. So if you're getting started, just click around and explore and see what things are. And that's really the best way to kind of learn your way around inside there.
And there's nothing within Google Analytics that you can break, right? Like you can't mess anything up with your site while you're in Google Analytics.
Anything yet, and I would definitely be the first to do that. So.
You'd be the first one to break Google. Everybody out in California is like, oh, she did it.
Well, for those people, I will just click things just to see what it is, and then I'm sorry later. So it's safe to click around and do things. You can undo anything. And it really, if you're really, really struggling, I'm pretty sure that there's somebody you can call and say, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you run an amazing blog for photographers called Photography Awesome Sauce, and where there is just a ton of information that they can find. And I think you were saying you have an article that you recently wrote that we are going to link to on showatier.com. We're going to link out to that post so that you can read what Carrie had shared about Google Analytics. And you're just an awesome resource, Carrie. We're so grateful and thankful for you, because this is kind of daunting information. I mean, I may have wanted to go to space camp and launch shuttles when I was a child, but I don't want to look at data that looks like I could launch space shuttles.
I wanted to be a geologist, but you know.
Interesting. So maybe that like love of New Zealand and like the rocks and the valleys.
It's rocks. I collect rocks everywhere I go, but I just don't want to do the science and math classes to get the degree. So I even brought back a bag of rocks from New Zealand.
I love it. That's awesome. I like rocks too. Maybe not enough to like bring back a bag. I hope that's not illegal. And the feds are not going to be knocking down your door. You cannot steal the rocks from New Zealand.
Well, my dad works for the Forest Service, and growing up, we did have to be very, very careful about taking rocks from national parks, which I've never, ever done.
Yeah. No, don't. Did you see the Brady Bunch movie when they went to Hawaii and they took like the rock from the beach and everything messed up after that, and like volcanoes erupted? And yeah, don't be, I think it was Marsha, although I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've watched the Brady Bunch goes to Hawaii. But Carrie, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. This show is going to be on showatier.com/live. You can go back and rewatch it if you didn't get to see the entire thing. And we are going to link out from the post that's connected to that show so that you can see Carrie's post and find out more about her and Photography Awesome Sauce. Showatiers, we are so grateful that you joined us. And if you are not a Showit user yet, thanks for watching Showit Live. We will be back next Tuesday. I will actually be in frozen Portland, Maine at the Inspire Photo Retreat. I'm so excited. Showit's going to be out there. And Field will be back in studio to host Showit Live next week. I think Josh Newton is our guest, and he's just an amazing photographer. He's going to talk about that viral photo that he took of the couple with the fire on the mountain behind him. And so tune in for that. And Valentine's Day, we are going to release more tickets for Showit United. So maybe let your loved one know it is not too late to grab one of those tickets for United and give it the best Valentine's gift I can possibly think of. So thank you for joining us. Carrie, you have a wonderful day. And everybody go turn on your Google Analytics. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.